Hey Otter Pops, my name is Ashley of Ashley Otters Crochet and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you enjoy what you see. And if you're returning, welcome back. How you guys doing? Today we're going to be doing something new. I have my computer in front of me and that's because we're going to be writing up a pattern. So for those of you who don't remember or didn't watch the video, we made this shirt. It's an off-the-shoulder crop. So, pretty simple. But I want to write down the pattern for this so that way I can remember how to recreate it next time, and it will make it easier for me to put it up on my Etsy shop. So, what I have so far, so I did start the pattern itself already. I just did, the name of the top, which is the Minty Bee top. Or Minty Bee off the shoulder top. Gotta be specific. I have my disclaimer. I have a couple of pictures at the top. I wrote down the materials. That's also just so that way I remember. I did my abbreviations. I wrote down any notes. And of course, like the sizings with the color coding. And then I started with like the chain, just so that way I remember the numbers that I want to work with. So for this, I am going to be making another large. This one is really cute and I do like it, especially since it's the first one I made. It is quite big on me, so it falls off my shoulders constantly, which it gives a cute look, but it's not necessarily the look that I wanted. So I do like this top. I still do want to wear it, but I would also like another one that fits me just a bit better. Best of both worlds. And luckily, I make it myself, so I can do both. I can have my cake and eat it too. So, we are gonna recreate this in a size large, and as we're making it, we're gonna write down all the steps that we take, just so that I have it all in writing, and then eventually, if I feel like it, maybe I can release the pattern. I don't know about that quite yet, because I know I'm going to want to include very detailed pictures, but this time around I'm not going to be taking those detailed pictures, just because I want to focus on getting the top done, getting the pattern done, and then as I make it in the future I'll take pictures. But just to give myself some just to keep myself from focusing on too many things, I'm just gonna remake it and work on the pattern this time. So, with that being said, I do have, the chain done. I have the start of row 2 because I have an idea of what I did, but after I did row 2, I wanted to wait until I could recreate it, and I thought the best way to do that would be to do it with you guys. One, it'll help me keep me accountable and make sure I actually get it done, and two, it was just a fun video, something different. So, that being said, we have our two colors here again. We have black and we have pastel green, and we used a 5mm hook, I believe correctly. Yes, 5mm. So we'll get that. We'll get our stitch markers, and I think that's all we need to start. I will be right back when I have all those things. All right, we have our hook. This is the 5mm. So we have our hook, and we're going to start with the block yarn again. Okay, so we have end over yarn, and so with the beginning of the neckline, I wrote down, so when we originally did this, we followed the pattern for my shrug. Not to a T, obviously, but we followed the stitch count for a while. but it ended up being too big, and I think it's just because like this yarn is a bit looser than the yarn that I used to make the shrugs. So what I did was I adjusted the stitch count for what I thought would be appropriate for this yarn. And for a size large, I have it at 96 stitches instead of, what was it before? So for a size large for my shrugs, I have it at 120 stitches. But the yarn is stiffer and it's a little bit thicker. Like, it's still weight 4 yarn, but it's on the thicker side, whereas this is on the thinner side. And then, yeah, so I adjusted the stitches for the size large, and then I went through and made sure that all the other stitch counts for the different sizes make sense. So yeah, we're gonna start with our chain and go from there. And I do have my pillow in case I want to use it, but I think it might be a little bit easier if I'm going to be back and forth to just have it out of the way. So we just did 96 stitches, and I'm going to go through and count them just to make sure I have the stitch count right. Awesome, so we have 96 here. And now that we have our long chain, I'm going to make sure it doesn't twist on itself. And I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch of the chain. Now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to work an extended single crochet into the same stitch. So with this, I forgot to add the extended single crochet abbreviation, so I went back and added that to the beginning. And then I'm also going to specify, so for the double crochet row versus the triple crochet row, for the extended single crochet, in the double crochet row I chain 1, and then for the treble crochet row I chain 2. So I added in a distinction. I altered the abbreviation so that way the extended single crochet for the double crochet row has a different abbreviation than the one for the treble crochet row, just to make it a bit easier for people to understand what they need to do. So we have the beginning of our neckline. We just finished the first row. So with that, now we're going to start the color changing, and we're going to start row 3, which is our treble crochet row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down what I remember for row 3, and then from there I will do what I wrote down, and if I think of things, I'll make sure to update it as I go. So with this is also kind of where the math starts, because this is where I start to increase for the yoke, and I need to make sure I have the numbers right for that, which is going to be fun. So I'm going to highlight that this is a color changing row, so we have to add on our new color. Just as a quick update, I finished the writing portion for row 3, like the first treble crochet row, including calculating the number of stitches for each size, and where I'm gonna do my corner stitches for each size, all that stuff. One of the not so fun parts about, or I guess depending on the person, it can be the fun part about patterns, is the math, because you have to be able to account for different sizing options, at least for apparel anyway. And if math isn't your thing, it can be pretty difficult to remember each number and to make sure you're using the correct numbers for this sizing, and make sure you have the correct number of stitches to reach this number of inches. It's a lot to account for, but personally I think it's kind of fun. It puts my brain to work, and obviously as I'm crocheting, I'm thinking about what I'm doing, but it tends to be a bit more mindless for me, and I know for some people even more so. I wouldn't be able to crochet without looking, at least not yet. We'll see if we end up getting there. But I am a decent enough crocheter where I know what I'm doing enough to be able to put on a show while I crochet. So I'm not a complete novice, but I'm rambling, but all of that to say, it adds something a bit new to my routine. I say that I've made a bunch of patterns though. I only have one concrete pattern that I've written down and done this for, and that's the shrug pattern. That is the only other pattern that I have made before this, so I am new to this side of things. I think once you figure out the size grading for one product, so I have the size grading down for a couple of my things that I have in my shop. Once you have that down, it's easy to transfer it to other items of the it's easier to transfer it to other similar items. So the sizing for one bralette you can kind of use for the next bralette that you make, depending on obviously the yarn, the hook, and all that stuff. But the measurements themselves can carry over quite easily, but then it's a matter of figuring out what stitches will get you where you need to be, or what stitches and how many stitches will get you there. So right now I'm going through row 3, and as you can see, I already did the first corner. And I think I'm gonna have to go back. I think I was just crocheting without thinking. Because I am definitely well past where I need to be for my second corner stitch. So I'm gonna count this out and frog what I need to. Oh boy. So now I'm gonna be doing my second corner stitch. And I've said this before when I did the crochet with me video. But I like to only chain 1 for the corner stitches, just because I think it makes it a lot tighter. You know, like there's not as much spacing in the corners. So I think it makes it look a little bit more uniform and a little more put together. Just personally, because I don't like the giant like gaps that are usually created when you like chain 2, or some people like sometimes it even says to chain 3. Just doesn't look good to me personally. I did start late today, so I think after this row I am gonna grab something small to eat, and then I know I'm probably not gonna finish all this today. Again, just because we started late, but I do have tomorrow, and you know, I have time to work on this and get it done. So this entire video will be obviously me making this pattern, so you guys won't have to wait, but I will have to stop eventually. If you guys have any weekend plans, feel free to put that in the comments. I know the weekend is coming up and my boyfriend has a long weekend, and it's one of those ones where like we don't have anything to do, which is so nice. We can kind of just stay in and chill. I know he's probably gonna game. He just got a new Persona game, and he's been really enjoying playing that. Oh, we watched The Sixth Sense last night. Believe it or not, this is my first time watching it, and I thought it was pretty good. I did not see the twist coming. I'm not good with stuff like that, you know, like my boyfriend is really good with like movies and being able to like call things out. You know, like there were some like, for example, in Bridgerton, I'm obviously not going to spoil anything, but he was immediately able to guess who Whistledown was, just because he's very, well, obviously he's very intelligent, but he also really enjoys like movies and shows and indulging in like, you know, like he likes watching people discuss like movies and film and all that kind of stuff. So like anytime he guesses something, you know, like starts trying to guess a plot point, I'm just gonna assume, like I just assume that it's a spoiler. Not really, but you know, it's fun. We went back. I accidentally skipped over the third corner stitch. I'm just not paying attention. That's all it is. But this time we didn't go too far over, so it's not like we had to frog a whole lot. But yeah, so like, yeah, I was not able to guess the ending of the movie, but my boyfriend was able to. Yeah, I'm just not good with stuff like that. In my brain, it's like, I'm gonna find out anyway, so like, why try to guess what's gonna happen. Like, sometimes it can be fun to speculate, but other times it's just like, I'm just gonna watch it and see what happens, you know? And I'm not very... I don't know what word I'm looking for. Intuitive? Is intuitive the word? So yeah, I think the word I was looking for was intuitive. Like, I'm not good at, like, picking up on things unless it's, like, made obvious to me. Obviously, it depends on my mood. Sometimes I'm more intuitive than others. But, like, for the most part, I'm not great at... For the most part, I'm not great at assuming or, you know, making... I don't know. Because I was in STEM, so I guess in a way I am good at making assumptions. But it's usually based off of, like, facts and statistics. In terms of, like more ethos related stuff, you know, like, oh, someone is feeling this way, so that's going to lead to them doing this thing, or, you know, they're feeling this way, so I should expect this and this, you know, like, I don't know. I'm not good at, like, predicting outcomes of, like, people and, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know what I'm talking about. Alright, so now that we finished row 3, I'm going to carry up just to make sure what I did makes sense. Alright, now that I started the next row, what I did does make sense, and so I'm going to continue just a little bit just to make sure if the loop I pull comes undone, it doesn't frog too far back. And, like, you know, back into the pastel green row. Okay, so this is what we have so far. I'm going to update my pattern. Alright, so really quick, I just wrote down the steps that I did for row 4 and the steps that I would continue to do for row 4. I just wrote that down so that way when I come back to it, I can just look at this and continue crocheting. Most likely what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the steps for row 5, and then everything before you connect to make, like, the sleeves and the body, everything else is just a repeat of rows 4 and 5. So it's not a whole lot of work that I have to do for at least, like, the starting portion. I am gonna have to figure out how many rows I need for each size. So, like, how many rows would I do for a size small versus a size large versus a size 5X, you know? Like, I have to go through all my sizes and make sure that it would be a proper fitting length. And then, you know, I gotta figure out where I'm gonna, like, how many stitches I need to connect and all of that stuff. Bunch of fun work ahead, but we're gonna get it done. For right now, I'm gonna go get some food though, so catch you guys in the next one. Well, not in the next one. I'll catch you guys after. Yeah, Pops, so we're back from our lunch break. I actually got some work done while I was on the break. I was just crocheting and working while I watched some YouTube videos. But, so I finished the 5th row. Yeah, I finished the 5th row. I started working on the 6th row. And I wrote down the steps, like all the steps for row 5. With that being said, with row 4 and 5, you're kind of like you kind of just repeat those until you connect for the sleeves. So I'm going to write that down. I'm going to highlight it. No, not that. Rows 4 and repeat rows 4 and 5 for X amount of rows. And let's see, let's go to our size grading chart. Realized I never did the size grading for the top, which is my bad. So let's get that done. Here it is. Okay. So I think this, with the stitch count, would be in between a size a size XL and a size 1X. So like just going based off of like the stitch count for everything. So from there, let's figure out the measurements of this top, and we can use that to help us figure out the rest of the sizing. So I made this for me, and it was supposed to be in a size large. I like the sleeve length for this, so I'm gonna keep the 6 inches for the I'm gonna keep 6 inches for the sleeve length for the large. Body length is good as well, so I'm going to keep that as 20. And of course, because it's less stitches, the bicep, the neck opening, and the bust will be different than on the one that I made, like on the first one that I made. So the only thing is though, because each row is a different length, I need to figure out how I would get it to be exactly this, well, not exactly the same, but as similar as possible, because it's alternating colors. With this, I started on black, obviously, and then I'm gonna end on black for the top of the sleeve, start on green, and then continue on black. So I gotta figure out I have to figure out the length of both rows, so that way I can account for that. So I figured out the sleeve length and the body length. Now we need to figure out the bust, the bicep, and the neck opening. Hey Edipop, so I had to go off for a second because I was trying to figure out the size grading with the stitches. So one of the difficult things about pattern creation and size grading and all that stuff is you have to make sure that the stitches make sense. So for this, I need 2 stitches with a 5mm hook with this yarn gives me 1 inch, 2 chains. And then in order to get the measurements that I need, like the standard measurements for the like a small or a medium or what have you, I had to figure out how many stitches would get me to that point, but also it needs to be divisible by 3, because so say you have like, so for the one that I'm making, there's 96 stitches. 96 divided by 3 is 32. 32 divided by 2 is 16. 16 and 32 are important because 16 is the number of stitches you need for each sleeve. So, and the 32 is the number of stitches you need for the front and for the back. So, like, just some quick yoke math. The number of stitches you have divided by 3, and then that number is the number of stitches for the front and for the back. And then you divide the number you got from the original number of stitches, you divide that by 2, like so you divide by 3 for the original number, and then the new number you get, you divide that by 2. And that's the number of stitches you get for each sleeve. So with the one that I'm making, that's 32 stitches for the front panel and the back panel, and then it's 16 stitches for the side, or for the shoulders and for the sleeves. And then because you also have to account for the corners, when you're writing the pattern, you know, you take 1 off for each of these sections. So I crochet 13, or no, I crochet 15 stitches, do my corner stitch, crochet 31 stitches, do my corner stitch, so that way it works back up to my overall number, which is 96. So it's a lot to figure out, and like, because the numbers were a bit wonky, I had to make sure the increments were, I had to make sure that the number of stitches was divisible by 2 to get me my stitch count, like without having like half stitches or quarter stitches. A full stitch would get me this measurement. And then so yeah, I had to finagle it to make sure that the proper ratios were in place. So that way, when I'm making the product, it makes sense in terms of like number of stitches. And for the sizing, it also makes sense for like typical sizing measurements. If that makes any sense. Because like I was doing it, and for a size 5X, it got me like 78 inches for the shoulders. Like, obviously around, that's not the like shoulder to shoulder, that's around, you know, if you're measuring around your entire shoulder, yeah, you know what I mean. So because that's not typical, like that would be a little too big for a 5X, especially like incrementally speaking. I have 10 size options, so incrementally it wouldn't make sense to do it that way. So I was able to figure out the numbers. I'm still figuring out like the bicep and like the bust measurements, but that just depends on the measurements as I work it up. That's kind of something I can measure out, but I want to wait and make sure I'm getting more accurate accurate measurement for those. But for the sleeve length, that's easy. That's just the number of rows until I connect. Body length, that's how many rows I continue with. And then the neck opening, that's the stitches I start with. So, like, those are the measurements that I can gain right now. And then for the bust and the bicep, I have the typical measurements for those sizes, like for each size. And then as I go, I'm going to figure out what I need to do to reach those typical measurements. So it's a lot to take into account, but yeah, I went off, I figured out at least like the starting portion, and now so this is what we have. I'm on row I'm technically on row 6, and that's including the chain, like the starting chain. So for all sizes, I think I'm gonna make the sleeve the same length, because like for this, I really like this. I think this is a really decent sleeve length. So I think this is perfect. And you don't really need to change the sleeve length too much in between sizes. The only issue is like the actual bicep measurement. So that's why I have to go through and make sure it matches for each size. Like that the pattern, I have to make sure that what I do in the pattern results in the size for the standard sizing chart. Sorry, I'm jumbling my words. My brain is a little wonky because of all the math that I've been doing. And again, like, I'm not, like, I like math. It's just having to take all these things into account, and I have a bad habit of not writing things down. I know I should. It would make it so much easier for myself if I just wrote things down, like wrote down my calculations and everything. But you live and you learn, you know? And then, so one other thing that, like, there's one other reason I realized why I would not release this pattern after this. So obviously pictures is one thing. I want to take more pictures while I'm actually making the item. And 2, I need to figure out a gauge swatch. So, for those of you who haven't seen my previous video, I don't like doing gauge swatches just because I just want to get to the actual project. If it works out, it works out. Like, YOLO, dude. It's just yarn. No, but like, I want to get to the actual fun part of crocheting. I want to get the project. I want the piece that I'm trying to make. I don't want to have to worry about, you know, making sure it matches. And like, I should do that. Just to make sure that my tension and everything is lining up with what they're doing in with the person who made the pattern. But it's not something I typically do. I am trying to be better about that though. But with that being said, I also need to be able to create gauge swatches for my own patterns. So I have to figure out how I'm gonna do that. I mean, it's pretty simple. I probably just, like, I have an idea for what I'm gonna do. It's just that I actually have to do it and take the measurements and all that goody good stuff. So with that being said, because I'm just gonna be repeating rows 5 and 6, I'm gonna do that off camera, and it's about time that my boyfriend gets home anyway. So I'm gonna finish up that tonight, and then tomorrow we'll continue with connecting for the sleeves and then doing the body of the top. And connecting, that's going to be like obviously its own step, but then the body, that's going to be like a couple rows of telling you what you need to do, and then it's basically the same thing throughout the body. So it's just, you know, repeating for a number of rows. So it's not like I have to write down and think about a whole lot. It's just, you know, it's getting late, I gotta finish recording before my boyfriend gets home. I want to make sure I'm respecting his space as well. So, yeah, I'm gonna finish this up and then I will check back in with you guys tomorrow when we start up again. See you guys. Have a good night. Hey, Otter Pops. We're back. It's a new day. So last night I left you with me continuing the rows for the yolk. And then I said I would come back once I said I would come back today and show you my progress, and we would continue where we start connecting for the sleeves and going around for the body. And this is the progress we've made. Very cute, right? It's the same thing that we made before. I still think it's very cute though. So yeah, we just finished up the rows that we needed for the yoke, and we're about to connect for the sleeves, and right now I'm working on doing the math for that. So, because you're increasing every row for the yoke, I need to figure out how many more stitches I have to account for and how much more length that allows me. So and I also have to do that for each and every size, which is gonna be fun, but we'll see how it goes. So I finished. Once you're finished with those rows, what should people know? So we just finished the calculations for the number of stitches that you'll have after you finish the yoke. So from here, I need to figure out what that means for connecting for sleeves. We adjusted the measurements for the bicep. And from here, we need to figure out how many stitches we need to accomplish said measurements. Now that we've figured out how many stitches we need to chain in order to create armholes, now I need to write down the process for said armholes. We just finished writing down the process for creating the armholes and doing that row. So I'm gonna go ahead and start that up and see whether or not what I wrote makes sense. after crocheting for a little bit, I tried on the top and it's fitting beautifully. I'm very proud of what I've done so far. And like with the first one, I tried it on as I went, but I didn't realize that like while standing, it's a bit more relaxed on my shoulders, and with that it would fall constantly, which can create a nice look of it like just draped across my arms rather than like sitting like against my shoulders. But what I was looking for is the sitting against my shoulders, that way it doesn't fall as much. So I'm very happy with the result, and with that we're gonna keep going. We're almost done with the second side of the yoke. Give me just a second. Sorry, we had a brief interruption. But yeah, so we're about to finish up the second side, and then we're gonna go into starting the body. And of course, I'm gonna write it down before I start the row, just so that way I can follow it and make sure I'm hitting everything that I need to. Also, I'm sure you guys have noticed, I've been really loving the Lion Brand Pound of Love. I don't know what about this yarn just has me caught, but oh, I love it so much. It's so thin, the drape is so nice. I don't know who created this yarn, but whoever did, you're a blessing. I've been really loving it. And even better is that you can get it in these really big skeins. So I think it's like 1,020 yards of yarn. And that lasts so long. Oh my god, I can do so many projects without having to stop and worry about connecting. And not only that, but I can also do multiple projects with one skein. Obviously, if I'm creating a bigger project like my shorts, that needed pretty much an entire skein. If I had gone smaller, like I should have, to actually fit me properly, it wouldn't have used as much. However, like, the fact that one skein got me one pair of shorts is really nice. And then, with the pastel green and the black, like this is my second time using this. Obviously I'm making a smaller size, and you know, it's like the stitch count and everything has changed, what have you, but it's still lasting me 2 tops, like both skeins, and I'm loving this, I'm not gonna lie. I think it is such a pretty yarn, and they have so many beautiful colors. Obviously, they don't have the widest selection. I haven't looked online to see what they have, but usually when I go to the store, the selection isn't super crazy. But it's decent enough for me to do something with. Also, we just finished our armhole round, so now we're starting on the first round for the body, and that is going to need to be written down. I'm just gonna start off because it's the same start each time. so now that that's done, we're gonna start writing down the steps needed to work on the body of this top. One other thing I added is a note when creating the armhole. I just added a note that said, mark the chain 2 from the extended single crochet so you do not confuse them with the chain for the armholes when it comes time to connect the row and start the next row. So just not confuse people. I made sure to point out that you should mark to make sure you know which one to crochet into when you come back around. Now that I finished the first row of the body, I'm gonna write down what I need to do for row 2, and then from there it's pretty repetitive. I'm just gonna put down how many repeats you need for each size. So not a whole lot left that I have to do for this, which is really nice. I still need to figure out what the bust measurements are for each size. Which shouldn't take me too long. It's pretty similar to what I've been doing this entire time. So I finished writing down the steps for the body. I'm not too sure how many rows I need to repeat, so I need to do these steps, measure it out, and then write that down. It's all going to be pretty repetitive, so I'm going to stop recording here, and I will check back in with you guys if I have something else to add or when we finish, whichever one comes first. Hey Etterpops, so it's a new day. It's actually a day later than when we were last filming. I have finished the pattern and I have finished the top. So this is a size large in the pattern. This fits me a lot better than the other one does. I still do love that one. It's it's my first, so it's always gonna be my favorite. But this is really good. This is really nice to wear. But yeah, so if you see, all my ends are weaved in, and there is like this stripe that goes up the back from where I carried my yarn. But if you look, you can kind of see it, but if you're just looking at the top itself, yeah, it's not really visible. It's a very subtle thing. If you know what to look for, then you see it, but very discreet. Yeah, I really like this top. This is what we have of the Minty Bee. I already put the black yarn away because there's still quite a bit left of that, but I had to wind this up, so I have it right here. But yeah, everything is done. I'm gonna switch over to so you guys can see my screen, and I'll scroll through the pattern. Obviously I'm not gonna let you guys see everything. But yeah, so the pattern is done, so is the top, and yeah, we have our measurements over here. I still have to edit some of the measurements, but otherwise everything else is done. And then here's our pattern. And if you see, there is 5 pages. So yeah, our pattern is done. Our top is done. I have to edit some of the measurements, but other than that, this is pretty much ready to go up on my Etsy. I do need to take some pictures. I'm gonna take some pictures of me wearing it, and then of course, on a hanger. I'm gonna have to wait for a sunnier day to do that because it's a bit rainy today. But if you want one for yourself, look forward to seeing it at my shop. With that being said, since we are done here, we are done with this video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me put everything together. Obviously, like, when we first made this top, we were able to make it in a day, but because we were writing down everything and editing and all that stuff, it took 3 days instead of the original one. Not a horrible. That's not bad, you know, especially with how much I was doing while making it. I think that's a pretty good timeline. So, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Check out my links down below. TikTok, while we still have it. Instagram, all that stuff is down in the description. Subscribe if you liked what you see and you want to see some more. Give me a like if you like this video. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good one. Otter out.